Three people would appear in court this morning. Bulele Shudi Jones is at the Nelspruit Magistrate Court for us. Now, South Africa's positivity rate is reaching record levels. Medical expert Professor Ramneek Ahluwalia believes that the infections have spiked because of changes in behaviour during the recent Easter break. This includes relaxing the use of masks while socialising and spending more time indoors as the weather gets colder. Ahluwalia speaks to us now. Good morning, Professor, and thank you very much for your time. Now, given this increase in the positivity rate, there has been most certainly a lot of concern. However, when numbers were decreasing, we heard of immunity after being exposed to the virus being among the reasons why there was a decrease. Yet now experts are confining themselves to vaccination as being the only way to protect oneself. What do you make of this whole conversation?
You know, we find ourselves in a very interesting time right now. It's quite a challenging time once again. COVID comes with surprises. Now, the virus will do three things all the time. Number one, it will keep on mutating, and when it mutates, it tries to become more transmissible. And that's the only way it will replace its parent offspring or its mother organized or mother variant or whatever the way it has to replace to become a dominant mutant. The other thing is it continuously changes its shape in such a way that when it enters a human body, it becomes unrecognizable, which means it has this immune evasive picture. And this is exactly which we usually see with the new variant coming, but this time the Omicron itself changes shape to such a way or a structure that it's its own subvariant, like a BA5, started showing what we call it as an immune evasive property. So when it enters a human, for a long time it remains invisible. So it binds to human cells, replicate, causing a lot of people with breakthrough infections, which means people who even had COVID in, say, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, even recently, still are bound or vulnerable to have COVID. But the third thing is changing some clinical patterns, which we are following. Now, South Africa, equally, while this virus was mutating, we had a festive season. A lot of socialization, a lot of people letting the guard down. This is COVID fatigue, and I totally relate to people. It's not easy. It's 2.5 years. And that festive season gave exactly what the virus wanted, an easy transmission from one human to the other.
So the increase we're seeing now, you're saying, is as a result of what could have possibly happened in the festive season?
Definitely. The festive season has a big contribution to play. Socialization, at the same time, national state of disaster was removed, so people did not wear masks in indoor spaces or congregations. When people are in close congregations, is very critical. Similarly, South Africa saw a weather change, which in April, we usually don't see such winters coming, and we saw winter coming, which brings people more indoor. Crowds come indoor. There's a lot of socialization happening, and wearing of mask has not been, and I said that has been lowered down, which obviously I want to reinstate that, knowing ourselves that masks do play a very central role when we are in congregation, when we are indoors, when there's less ventilation. These are very important factors for us to prevent the spread of COVID. So definitely the festive season, the winter, the indoor congregations, it has led to what the mutant virus, which the subvariant was already mutating, gave it a bigger room to faster mutate, change itself into structures that led it to have this immune evasive structure or highly transmissible structure, and we find ourselves looming into a fifth wave currently.
And what is preliminary data indicating for you, if you had to look at it now insofar as severity or transmissibility is concerned? Are we seeing the same trend as we've seen in the previous wave, where we're seeing now an increase in transmissibility, but most certainly a decrease in severity?
Definitely the current spikes are due to a subvariant of Omicron. And Omicron, from where we studied itself, clearly showed its less virulence or less clinical patterns versus its previous offsprings, say the variants like the Delta or the Beta that caused havoc in South Africa, which means that the acquired immune system of the body, which means 80% of South Africans during the first, second, third, or fourth wave got the infection, produced some immunity. Now, over 35% of South Africans above the age of 30 have got vaccine immunity, and above 60% above the age of 60 have, which is a good sign. So this immune system is now holding its guard. Even if even if it evades in the first or second line of defense, eventually our body overcomes this virus very, very quickly, which means the severity is still very low, which is a very good sign. Our hospitalizations are very low. Our death rates are very low. And that is why we still believe that this virus, as much as it's mutating for now, has not shown us signs of really showing us that deep immune evasion that we were worried about. Yes, it has immune evasion, but not to the level, which means our vaccines, our acquired immunity are still holding the card against the severity and death. So this is very good sign. We're hoping this continues. Well, this cannot be guaranteed because still early data science. And however, we're still doing a lot of genomic sequencing to see should we be surprised with a new variant, which is still a possibility for a bigger fifth wave or a possibly another wave in winters, because the virus was probably going to be displaced, or the Omicron should have been displaced by a new, totally different variant, which will show totally different clinical patterns or other findings. So this is a wait and watch, and that's what science is. But currently, no panic, because this Omicron subvariant doesn't show severity to the level we've seen in the past.
Right, Professor, thank you very much for your insight. That was medical expert Professor Ramneek Ahluwalia. Now, 3 people are expected